It's one of the hardest parts about owning and running a small service business and doing it all on your own is that sense of loneliness and sometimes isolation that you feel when you're doing it completely alone. One of the things I don't miss about working on my own is all that rubbish office politics and some of the absolute idiots that you end up having to work with when you work in an office. But definitely one of the things that I have struggled with it over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been running my businesses. It's definitely been sat there on my own and having to be the person who's wearing every single hat in the business and being the person who's solely responsible for the success of the business. And what I wanted to talk about in this video is why it's important to find other small business owner friends within your community who you can build up a good network up around you. Also, some of the ways that I've actually found new small business owner friends and built up my own network of a nice bunch of people around me, so that if you're struggling and you may be feeling a little bit isolated, you can see how you could potentially find some of your own. So loneliness and isolation is a massive problem. It's one of the main things that I hear other people talking about who run their own business on their own. It is especially hard when you might not necessarily have friends or family around you who understand exactly what you're doing. Potentially the people who are in your close network, i.e. your friends, your family, your spouse, they might not understand the idea of running a business. They could be employed themselves, or they could be running a business, but they could be in a completely different area to what you're doing. So sometimes it is a little bit difficult to have people close who understand exactly what you're going through on a day-to-day basis. I actually see making friends with other small business owners as a massive advantage for not only you personally, but for your business as well in terms of growing your business. The main advantage that I see of building up a network of other people around you who are on exactly the same journey as you is exactly that. When you're sitting there on your own and you feel like you're doing everything completely on your own and isolated away from everything, the only thing that you've got to rely on is everything that's going around in your head. And it's very, very easy when you're the sole person in charge of everything to get completely off track and not even have a clue that you're off track until sometimes it's too late. I personally have been in that position before where I've just been listening to the voice in my head and listening to my own instincts, and it's not worked out as I'd planned. And it's taken somebody external to me to take a high level view of what I've been doing and say, Dave, do you know what? I think you're completely off the right path here. Why don't you try doing X, Y, and Z to get yourself back on it? And luckily for me, when I was in that position before, I was able to get myself back on to the right path. For a lot of people, running a business on your own, it can end up being too late and you just end up falling off the edge of a cliff. So there definitely is advantage of having people around you who are on the same path. For me, it's been the motivation side of things, where when you're in a collective of people and everyone's trying to aim at the same sort of thing, you naturally want to also make sure you're pulling the rope and actually getting on the same path as what those people are, because human nature, you don't want to feel like you're falling behind or that you're less than anybody else. The advantage of building that network up of other small business friends is just having that motivation and that bit of accountability and that bit of a kick up the arse to make sure you are on the right journey. And I think there's a saying, or it might be some sort of principle, but it's something along the lines of the 5 people who you hang around with most are what you would eventually will become. If you're in a community of lots of other small business owners, if you've got all them friends around you who are also doing the exact same things, naturally you will follow in their footsteps and obviously be on the same path as them. So there definitely is a lot of advantages to building up that list of friends. When I talk about building up a list of other small business friends, I'm not just talking about building up like a follower audience on LinkedIn or something along those lines. I'm talking about actual people who you would class more as friends, which obviously takes a bit more time. It takes effort on your part, and obviously those people have got to be willing as well. But once you find those people, that sense of loneliness and that sense of isolation just instantly lifts off of your shoulders, and honestly, it makes everything a million times easier going forward when you do find that group of people. I've been really, really lucky to have a good team of people around me, and I would class them as a team. Now, widening that support network to people who are a lot more aligned with me has come from reaching out to people on LinkedIn, forming relationships and connections with other web developers and other web designers who are on who are running the business on their own. I've managed to find a few people there, which has been good. Another fantastic place that I've managed to find some really good friends in the last 12 months has been by joining a online community called the Content Club, which is it's about 100 people in there, and every single one of us are running a business on our own, and we're all on the same sort of path in terms of wanting to use content to market ourselves and our businesses. And within that group of people, I would class quite a few of those folk in there as actual friends who I know I can reach out to at any point in time and get that support. I've also found good connections with people who I would class more as friends in networking events as well. So actual face-to-face, real-world networking events in my local area. There's just a few places where you could potentially find some friends yourself. And I do think if you are feeling a bit lonely in your business, it is one of the hardest things to get over, and it is one of the main things that will hold you back in your business, in my opinion. So I would definitely recommend trying to find some people who you can form a bit of a closer relationship with, who are in exactly the same boat as you. Start to build on those relationships with those people. You may think forming friendships with other people who you would maybe class as competition wouldn't be necessarily a good thing for your growth, but in my experience, it has actually been fantastic because there's a lot of opportunity for collaborations with these people, so working on bigger projects together, which I've done a couple of times before. There's also the chance where, say for instance, a few weeks ago, Nick, who I just talked about, he'd got a proposal come through onto his desk, and he didn't have the time to actually do it, and the first person that he thought of who could do the project was me, and he passed that person on to me, and I'm now on with trying to get a project set up with that person. So don't see these people as competition necessarily. There's enough work out there for all of us to get our hands on. You never know where them referrals for work are going to actually come from, but if you spent the time building up a good relationship with these people, you're going to be the top of mind for that person when they can't necessarily do a project. They'll pass it over to you. So there is a lot of opportunity there for actually getting more business and ultimately growing your small business through these network of friends that you're building up. There's just my 2 pence worth on it. Let me know in the comments below what if you're struggling with loneliness and isolation in your business. The Content Club that I've just spoke about as well, I will give them a little bit of a plug here because it's been absolutely fantastic for me over the last 12 months in terms of developing my skills in the area of content, and it's also been fantastic for me in terms of growing my business because I've actively got new business through that network of people too. I'll put the link in the description below for that. If you haven't done so already, do me a favour and subscribe to the channel. It'd really help. Link to my newsletter is in the description below as well, and I'll see you on the next video.